For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Yeah, this is exactly why we're not growing as much as we should be, because I'll get really gung-ho about it and post and consistently post, and then I'll take a week and a half where I don't post anything, and it's like, yeah, that's 100% why. So
a rest is also productive too. You can't operate from a state of burnout because that's counterproductive more in the end, and then you end up taking more time to recalibrate and get yourself re-psyched about what you're doing. So the time off.
This is very true.
We cannot all be slave to our apps, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's very true. That's
regardless, but
that's why I took almost 3 months off this year, where I didn't do anything. I was just, I found myself what am I doing? And then I found myself in this weird cycle of burnout. But then when I was trying to recover from the burnout, I felt like I was lost, if that makes any kind of sense, because it's I burnt myself out of the one thing that I really enjoyed doing, really loved doing, and then when I tried to take a break, I was like, oh, but now I'm nothing. What am I doing with myself?
It's hard to not base our self-value on our productivity levels because it's been so battered into our brains that what we do is who we are, and
yeah. 100%. So, but really excited. So, welcome everybody to the podcast. We're going to just kind of roll into this one. We got Chisa coming with us. Really excited to sit down and chat with you. It's been a good minute since we've had you on the podcast. I feel like, what has it been? Yeah. A little over a year?
I think so, because it was around when I first released my first EP, which has definitely been out for, I think, over a year now. So
yeah, it's one of those things where it's especially with COVID, I don't even remember half of the, you could tell me we were on the podcast in February and I'd be like, okay, yeah, that sounds about right. So
Tom's on Tom time.
Yeah, 100%. But excited to sit down and chat with you. You got some new music dropping, not tomorrow, Tuesday, which is, that's exciting. And I was kind of hoping it was an homage to Tom Hanks, Sleepless in Seattle, not Tom Hanks, never mind.
Okay, well, it still can be, because fun fact, Tom Hanks is my birthday twin, so if we want it to be about Tom Hanks, we can make it about Tom Hanks.
But really excited to sit down and chat with you, talk about the new single and all that fun stuff. But what's been going on outside of music? What's new and exciting in your world?
Well, it's not so much new and exciting, just so much as Halloween parties this last weekend.
Nice.
Been seeing all my friends for the first time in a while. It kind of feels like COVID's finally dying down in the sense that we all feel like we can resume social activities as normal. I feel finally we're over the hump of the weirdness of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that. It was Tom Hanks. Never mind. I am right. It is Tom Hanks.
I said I've never actually seen the movie. I didn't know if I was going to get copyrighted by making it a song, but I just was really inspired in Seattle, and I kind of understood why they made a little rom-com or whatever about it. It's just such a cute city and so much life happening there.
For sure. Sorry, while you were speaking, I was just I gotta look now because I'm not 100% sure anymore. But the fact that you were up at 9 a.m. Halloween weekend, I've done similar stupid things during Halloween weekend where it's oh, let's schedule this thing that's going to consume a lot of time for people. And then I realized, oh, that's the weekend of Halloween. People are going to be drinking and having fun and doing all these things that, yeah.
Yeah, so. See, at least I don't drink, so I'm lucky there because I'm not hungover. I'm just lacking sleep is all,
I feel that. At least we did it 9 your time, not 7 your time like we usually do. So that's fun and exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. I do want to bring up one thing before we jump into the new song. I've seen you posting this on your social media, and we've talked about this last time about the yoga video fail about you I've really been impressed that you've been kind of owning that and kind of owning, I don't want to call it trauma, but your failures. And you're just kind of, I think what was it, like sometime this week you put out on social media that you're worried that this is the only thing that you're going to be known for, and it was this video.
Yeah, well, you know what? Weirdly enough, that video has brought me most of my opportunities. So I feel like I have to own it. I can't just like sweep it under the rug and pretend it never happened. And I feel like, you know, I have to be thankful to whatever nature spirit pushed me in the water that day because of what that video's brought. So I can't be mad about it.
Yeah, I think it's
probably the least traumatizing thing to happen in my life. So it's okay.
As I say, I think it'd be really cool to try and not recreate it, but try and successfully do what you were trying to accomplish in that video, and just like build a song around like failure, success, like
water under the bridge.
Yeah, something like So I just wanted to bring that out before we kind of jumped into everything, and because I noticed that on your social medias, I think it's mainly been on Twitch. That sounds about right. Or not Twitch.
Seem to
TikTok. That's the word.
Yeah. Well, it originally went viral on Twitter. That's when I posted it. I posted it because I thought like my 10 friends would laugh at it and see, and next thing I know, it's like 10,000 people. So yeah, it just wasn't.
Yeah.
My intended thing, but you live and you learn. Maybe you don't post all of your embarrassing moments. Maybe you only post some to the internet.
Fair, very fair. So, all that aside, let's jump into the Sleepless in Seattle. What's kind of the story on it? I feel like this has been something you've been promoting for a good minute now.
I first put teasers out for this song on social media probably like 3 or 4 months ago, honestly. I was just trying to like tie up all the like loose ends of like the mixing and mastering. And so it took a minute before like mentally I felt like I was done with the song and like ready to put it out into the world. There was still like a little bit of a lag between like when I felt like I was ready versus when it's coming out now, but I couldn't be more excited about it. I got my friend Chantel, shout out Chantel, to make the dope cover art for it, and yeah, like giving it that space too has given me time to really think about my social media rollout plan. And I hate, as an independent artist, having to think so much about music marketing, but unfortunately it's like the world we live in. So yeah, giving it that space has really given me the time to like be gung-ho and like actually give this song the like chance it deserves to like get out on the world, because I could just like drop it and not ever promote it, you know what I mean? But I'm just so stoked about this song that I felt like I just wanted as many ears to hear it as possible. For sure.
It's one of those things where you brought up like not liking to have to promote it and all that stuff, but it's one of those crosses that we have to bear as independent creators, because obviously we can't like afford to pay somebody to do it, and it's just kind of guessing. But on the flip side, I think that's what people really connect with, is knowing like, hey, if I comment on this video, 99% of the time it's actually them responding to me, and so it kind of builds that authentic connection with people,
which I think is probably something we value more than these like strange parasocial relationships we have with these like big celebrities. Like I'm sure there is kind of, and I think I can attest to it in my own music taste as well, I think there is something to be said for that connection you have with like smaller artists, and like getting able to like talk to them and like really figure out where they were at when they were making the songs that mean so much to you and stuff.
Yeah. So for Sleepless in Seattle, it drops on Tuesday.
November.
November 1st, Tuesday. Which, I remember back in the day, that's when like music actually dropped. You'd go to the store and music would drop on Tuesday. Like that's when the new albums and whatnot actually came out.
Nice.
So like I just remember those days. See,
I'm old enough to remember buying CDs, but not old enough to remember the logistics about them coming out on Tuesdays. Because me being like 6, like buying a Britney Spears CD, I never was like, oh yeah, it's Tuesday. Look, they dropped the new CDs.
Yeah,
never noticed that.
100%. It's just one of those things where it's like back. I was maybe in 7th, 8th grade when I really started getting into music like that. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh, yeah. Tuesdays. I remember those. So,
what was your first album you bought? What was your first one that you remember?
first album, I had just graduated, or not graduated. It was my birthday, and I like as far as CDs go, it was the Grease soundtrack.
Classic.
Because we had that was my mom's favorite movie back in when she was growing up, and when we were kids, every Saturday we would watch Grease, the movie. Mm-hmm. And when I finally bought a Discman, that was one of the first soundtracks, or one of the first CDs I ever bought. There was something else that I bought with it, but I can't 100% remember what it was.
So you know the Grease deep cuts then, because my friends always make fun of me when I'm over here singing like Freddie My Love and like Rock and Roll is here to stay.
Yep.
Well, yeah, so you know the whole soundtrack. That was so good, that whole soundtrack. There's so many songs that weren't in the movie that like deserve that same icon status, and they did not get it.
Yep, 100%. But as far as like first like album, it would have probably been a cassette tape that I bought when I was like really young. I maybe just turned 10 or so. Mm-hmm. And it was this band called Three Dogs Night, and it was a band that nobody knew, or nobody would think that I knew what they were. So, it was like an old school band, like a super old school band. And I just randomly picked it out of like the $5 bin or whatever. Like it was like a discount bin at the store. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that looks like a cool track or a cool cassette tape. And I picked it out. And yeah, that's.
Is this where your connection with all the underdog artists began? Is this why now you're like, let me talk to all the indie musicians. Let me go left of center.
No, actually, no. That whole thing started when I was in college. I had some buddies that were musicians, and we rented, there was 6 of us, and we rented like a duplex. So it was like 3 people lived on one side, 3 people lived on the other side. But what was cool was there's like this doorway in the center that connected to go down to the basement, where in normal situations, most places would lock that off, and it just kind of is what it is. But we kept it open because all 6 of us were friends.
Yeah.
And down in the basement, everybody, or all the people that I lived with that played musical instruments, would just go leave all their stuff down there. So we had one guy that was a drummer, so he had a drum kit down there. One guy was a bass player, so he had his bass and his amp, and a guitar player. And so they would just start jamming together, and not really playing anything, but just kind of finding riffs that kind of matched. And I had this idea for a documentary because I was studying film in school, and I had this idea for a documentary about a band that never really existed, but kind of made some success. So it was like a band that didn't exist, but they put a song together and made headway and became super famous and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and that's just kind of where it all stemmed from.
I love it. Your love for indie music.
Yeah. What about you? What was the first album you remember buying?
Well, the first one I remember hearing, I don't know if I had bought it. I think my parents had bought it for me, but I remember some girl on the playground in kindergarten coming up to me and being like, have you heard the new Britney Spears album? And this was 99. It was Baby One More Time. So it was definitely the first. And that is one of the albums that I think just made me who I am as a human. Probably. I probably had it on my Walkman for hours in the car on the way to school, all that stuff. That was the first one. But the first one I bought myself was actually a Fall Out Boy record. I remember going to Best Buy, and it was Infinity on High. It was 6th grade, I think.
Nice. Because I remember when I was in high school and stuff, I'd go buy CDs, but this was during the time where they were very hardcore about the parental advisory stickers, and my mom had this rule: any music, you can listen to whatever you want, but no cursing. And so anytime I'd go and buy something that I wanted, I'd have to go get the censored version, and it would be super lame because I'd be like listening to Eminem and
Oh
Limp
my God,
Bizkit.
can you imagine like a censored Eminem version? Like it's like half the track is just silent.
Yeah, and so it'd be like Eminem and Limp Bizkit and all censored, and I'm just sitting here. I'm like, I know what they're saying, but technically, whatever. And then I think it was my cousin that finally chimed in. She was like talking to my mom one day about, because my cousin's like 3 or 4 years older than I am, and he was like, he's listening to this stuff at school uncensored. He's getting this he's going to get this music some other way, so why not just do it legally? And so
That definitely
it was.
Except I was lime wiring all of my bad word music, all the Eminem, all of that.
Oh yeah, I remember LimeWire, Kazaa, ShareBear, all that stuff. So it was definitely in the same boat, but it was one of those things where it was like I was finding a workaround for everything, and then once I turned 18, it didn't matter anyway. So
right. I think that's a testament to my love as a child, though, because I remember being so terrified that the FBI was going to find out I was like pirating music, and so
that's because Pepsi did
to risk prison at 10 years old just to listen to some Paramore.
I mean, Pepsi did such a great job scaring the crap out of people with all that. Like, I remember they ran a Super Bowl ad interviewing people that got thrown into prison, like people that got thrown into prison for pirating music off of Napster, like back the original pirating thing. And they did this whole ad campaign about don't illegally download your music, buy it legally. And I remember that scared the hell out of me because I was like, wait, I could actually like go to prison for this?
Just for listening to music?
Yeah.
What about the thing? I mean, there's a lot of like fear indoctrination we get as children that is absolutely not based in reality whatsoever. But that's another story for another day.
Oh yeah, for sure. It really is. It's just what it is. But so, I mean, we've kind of talked about this in the past. What's that?
I said I made you stray from the topic a lot.
No. I was going to roll it into something, streamline it into something else. We've kind of talked about this in the past about, or you mentioned this earlier about Britney Spears kind of being the album that morphed you as a human.
Just kidding.
Which is interesting considering everything that Britney Spears has kind of gone through over the last couple of years. But what's that?
She deserves better.
Yeah. 100%. What's kind of, I'm sure we talked about this in the last podcast, who are some of the musical, as far as like music goes, who are some of the musical inspirations that you kind of come across over your career?
That like I'm inspired by, or like that I've like actually.
Yeah, that you're inspired by.
I really love Utada Hikaru. She's this Japanese like J-pop singer, and that was another album I was listening to a lot around like the Britney days. So that's another thing that really cemented like my love for just like pop music and this idea of like just I don't know, all of her production still to this day just stands up after listening to those albums. Like she just was like super ahead of her time, I think, and especially as like a bilingual artist, and like it was just so cool to have that as like a biracial child to like have I don't know my connection to the language that's like I didn't really have that in my community. It was really the only like Japanese person I really knew was my mom and like a couple people from school, but that was about it. So to be able to still have that connection to my culture was really cool. So she's definitely one that like is near and dear to my heart. Who else is really inspired by? I really love like Sylvan Esso right now. They just do a lot of things like within the electronic music sphere that I don't think a lot of other artists are doing. Like Nick's production is just so cool what he does. Like, and especially on their last album, they called it No Rules Sandy because his nickname's like Sandy, I'm pretty sure, because his name's like Sanford or something. But they basically just said like they were gonna throw all like conceived ideas of what this album should be in their head out the window, and so it's a lot of just like really experimental production, and like her voice is just so incredible, and the things that he does with like making her vocal effects do this, and I just love them. I could talk about them all day. That is one of my favorite bands as well.
Nice. You brought up a little bit of J-pop early on. Mm-hmm. I went through as a 35-year-old man, I went through I don't want to call it weird J-pop, K-pop phase in my life. About
we all have it. I'm in my K-pop phase right now, so it's fine. It's fine.
About 5 or 6 years ago, right around when Live and Amplified first started, I got really into this band called Baby Metal.
Oh yeah, I know about them. They're sick. They're so sick.
Yeah, I saw a music video of them, and like just the dynamics of what they were. I was just like, wow, this is really interesting. Yeah. And then I like to lay claim to that I was a fan of BTS before they became uber famous.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so it was just like, I saw one of their music videos. I thought it was really cool. I listened to it a little bit, and then they got super famous. And I was like, yeah, I don't care anymore. I'm cool.
You're like, well,
I'm good on that. Yep, I'm good on that.
I shun you.
No, it's not so much that. It's just one of those things where it's like, I'm good.
The novelty of it is gone. I get it.
Yes. So, it's just one of those things where it's like, sometimes they get famous, I lose interest. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So, let's jump back to Sleepless in Seattle a little bit. How long have you been writing that song? This song?
So I had the original idea for this song for a couple of years. Like, it was probably about 1.5 to 2 years ago that I took this trip to Seattle, and that's when I was just like really falling in love with the city. Went to like the museum out there, like was really just like studying up on like the music history and just like walking around and like learning the town. And so I was like, I want to write something called like Sleepless in Seattle. It just seems like a really fun concept for a song. And I was toying around with the idea of like what I wanted it to be about. And originally I had this idea of like being in a relationship and like trying to fall back in love, like in a place like Seattle, and like being like, okay, the surroundings are so beautiful. Like, how could you not be able to like foster a good connection while you're there? You know what I mean? How could it not feel like a movie? Type of thing. But then I just kind of sat with the idea for a while. I never really fully like sat down to write it until I went on tour up there in like February and just was reminded of how dope a city it is. And I was like, no, I need to write that song now. And so I became what it is now.
Do you see yourself moving up to Seattle, or is it just kind of like a fairy tale?
I don't know. It's somewhere in between. Like, I have, like, crazy dreams, and then I'm like, am I ever going to realize those? I don't know. That is one of them. I like the idea of just, like, because I moved to LA from Colorado, right? And I sorely miss Colorado. So I've been joking that I'm just going to keep moving more and more north until I go all the way to Alaska, because I really love Alaska a lot, too. But I don't know if I could do it that here, realistically.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm out for LA weather in the same vein. It being too hot for me has been...
Yeah.
Time.
100%. I was talking to a buddy of mine that lives out in LA, and he's still trying to get me to move out there. And it's like, dude, it's not going to happen. Like, I've given up the LA dream. Like, I've given the dream up. It's not going to happen. It was like a momentary dream. Like, where in the situation I was, LA seemed like where I needed to be. And then now it's just kind of like, I could be wherever I want to be. I don't have to be in LA. Like, LA is not the mecca that it used to be for me. So
understandable. And I think in a lot of ways, with like, especially with the digital world rising, like, we don't have to be in any one specific physical location to get successful in our various like industries. You know, you don't have to be here. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just interesting because it's like, yeah, I do want to get back out to LA and like visit, because it's been it's been about 20 years since, wow, I just made myself sound super old there. It's been about 20 years since what's that?
It was 20 months ago.
Well, it was one of those, I was like 15 when we went out there, and
wow, nice.
And, it was cool. It was fun, but
You have to
I
experience
find
it as an adult. I think it's a very different experience as a 15-year-old versus like an adult that can go out and like, you know, explore the city a little bit
oh yeah,
more.
because we went to like Disney and SeaWorld and all that stuff, and it was just like, oh, this is fun. And now it's just like, kind of want to experience like what real LA is about. Like, I feel like I went to the touristy part of LA.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Like, oh, you got to get some tacos.
right, right. Um, so Alaska, that's interesting because I don't know. I feel like Alaska is just too out there for me.
That's
Like
why everybody moves up there. Ask anybody up there what they think about the lower 48, and their immediate answer is, I got out of there as soon as I can and came up here. And I get it.
Really?
Like, if you go up there, there's something in the air. And like, granted, it's probably not for everybody, and especially like the extreme weather, I probably would pussy out too.
Yeah.
Objectively.
It's one of those things. I thought about, like, fresh out of college, I thought about trying to move up there just because I was looking. I lived in Chicago for my entire life. You know, everybody was like, oh, I'm never leaving Chicago, yada, yada. You're never leaving Chicago. You have all these dreams, but you're never going to succeed. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to go do the most random thing I can think of. And moving to Alaska was the most random thing I could think of. And so I started looking at jobs up there. And then my dad was like, think of something. You could do something random. Like, I support that. Like, do something to shake things up, but
what about like Wichita? Isn't that random too?
That's essentially what he said. He was like, but Alaska, here's the reality of the situation, and he laid down the reality of the situation, like, and all this stuff that I was just like, oh, I didn't think about that. Okay,
like, maybe I don't want to have to repair holes in my roof in a blizzard, like in negative 13-degree weather.
Yeah, 100%. So. And then I ended up moving out to Roswell, New Mexico. So,
oh, that's so dope. Okay, I mean, I love Alaska. Don't get me wrong, but Roswell, that's got to be super sick. Like, I love New Mexico.
It's a lot better now than it was when I lived there. Like, what I felt like when I lived there, everybody was super against Roswell being Roswell, and it was like they were trying to bury everything that it stood for. But now it's just like I went there. Back in August, I think it was. It was July or August I went back out there, and it was literally like they're actually trying to do something now. Like, that you go by and like all the down Main Street, all the light, like the city lights, they have like little alien faces on them. They have signs up that say, hey, if you want to go to the museum, the UFO museum, turn, you know, all that. Like the directional stuff.
Right? If you're a small town and you end up getting a reputation, you absolutely should capitalize on it. I mean, not to be like a capitalist, because that's so vehemently against who I am, but like if you live in a city, like in a place like that, I feel like that's an opportunity and you should take it.
Yeah, 100%. And like all their buses now have like UFOs on it and stuff like that. I'm like,
why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Like,
well, they're finally starting to realize, oh crap, we're running out of money. We need to like make this a thing.
We're aliens. We're pro-alien now.
Yeah, 100%. So that was a fun part of my life. If you were to like just randomly pick up and move outside of Alaska, because I feel like that's what you're about to say, what would be
that would be
if you're
random? But I would have like a half-year residency in like during the summer in Alaska, and I would be one of those people that goes to Bellingham. I'm obsessed with Bellingham, Washington. That is one of the most beautiful places I have ever seen in my life. Like, I do not make that statement lightly. Just stunning.
Yeah. I feel like, though, if you're going to just go to Alaska for the summer, you're like half committed to it. You're not fully committed to the experience.
I moved out of Colorado to get away from the snow. So am I really about to like put myself back in that life again? That's where I'm like just a little bit afraid, you know?
Yeah, I understand. But if you're going to go to Alaska.
No, most of them do, though. Most of them, I heard they do go own like multiple homes and go to Bellingham during the winters because it's just like a dip.
Nice. You know, it's fun to have dreams, and just like realizing them the journey to realizing them is what I've really been enjoying lately. So
yeah,
just working to get to where I want to be has been the best part of my life over the last 2 years. So
That's very fulfilling. You know what's funny though is I feel like my craziest dreams are the most like normal ones. Like I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to buy a home, but I'm like definitely gonna be like a musician. Like no, I'm not worried about that. But like, am I gonna be able to buy a home? I don't know.
like, and then
crazy dream, you know.
Then we're sitting here drowning in rent debt, or not rent debt, but just in rental fees, and as America's going to America a little bit. So
we're going through our Pluto return as a country. I mean, not to make everything about astrology because I tend to do that, but we're right for it. And, like, that's the one thing I always admired about, like, European countries is, like, when they feel like there's some sort of injustice within their, like, politics, they're the first to, like, burn buildings. They're like, Viva la France, motherfuckers. Like, let's go. Like, I'm sorry, I fucking cuss, but...
No, you're fine. You're good. You are 100% good. That's cool. So Sleepless in Seattle, is it leading to something, or is it just kind of singles right now?
This for right now is just its own single. I am working on a concept album that I probably will drop singles for next after this. I might do like one more like one-off single because I have it just about ready to go.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm working on a concept album right now. I'm probably about halfway done with recording that.
Gotcha.
I feel like I hold myself to better timetables, but since I'm like writing, producing, and mixing and doing it all of it myself, it definitely takes longer to turn out a big project album. I don't want to be on like a 2-year album cycle release, but I just don't know if it's realistic,
Yeah, I feel that. I was going to say, because it feels like it's been a while since you've released anything, so...
Well, yeah, even my EP, which was only like 5.5 songs, took a year to make, so...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's, it's a process, especially just kind of being by yourself and doing it yourself, As far as like the actual production process from, recording, mastering, what do you think is the hardest part for you?
Well, writing definitely comes easy. I've been doing, like, I could write, like, 20 songs a week if I wanted to, not to, like, toot my own horn, but I've been doing that since I was 15. So writing comes definitely very easy for me, but it's been definitely a bit of a learning curve with, like, production stuff, and I've definitely learned a lot in this last year. Like, I think I've learned more in this last year than I did in the first year of, like, me teaching myself about production and stuff. And I always kind of had, like, a little bit of a background of, like, how to work a DAW just because of like recording with other people. Like I knew how to track vocals and all of that, but like learning about like EQs and compressors and like what to put on your vocal chain and all of that stuff, that took a little bit longer, but I feel like it finally clicked, and I feel like I have a good baseline knowledge now of what I need to do. But that stuff's still definitely the hardest part because it's so detail oriented, and I'm not necessarily that person. Like I'm so all over the place always that it's like hard to get me to like sit there and like attack 80 drum tracks for like 4 days straight. You know what I mean? Like that's been the hardest part, but it's definitely very rewarding, and I feel accomplished because I took one look at my audio engineering textbook in college when I went for songwriting, and I like ran the other direction. So the fact that I'm even my own stuff is pretty impressive to me, and I still in shock every day.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think it's a good thing that musicians, and I wrote a whole thing about this, about musicians learning how to at least the basics of production or recording, like the recording process, because it just like once you get down the line, and if you're lucky enough to get yourself into a situation where you can afford like really good engineers, you're not talking on the same wavelength as they are, but you understand the conversation. Like you understand what they're talking about, and it's
like my boyfriend like rents out a studio. He like kind of like owns the studio and rents it out, and he talks about people that come in there that like end up like he has to do so much for them because they don't know how to set up like interfaces and mics and all of that. And I think it's really important knowledge to have if you want to like be the most efficient, especially because studio time can cost so much. So if you're sitting in there just trying to figure out like basic stuff, you're doing yourself a giant disservice because you're just burning through money at that point if you're renting out a studio.
100%. I 100% agree. It's So
it's also not as hard as everybody makes it out to be, I think. It's a very much like gate kept thing on a lot of levels. Like I feel like for a lot of years I was convinced I just wasn't smart enough to do it. And now that I'm like doing it, I'm like, okay, I had to sit down, and it's definitely like a commitment to like learn the terminology, but it's definitely more accessible than people make it to seem.
Yeah. It's, you know, as somebody that didn't study audio production or any of that stuff in college, and then just kind of learning it on the fly as we were started doing live and amplified, and you know, there's an art to it. Like there's definitely a difference between somebody that's okay at it versus somebody that's great at it. Like there's definitely a fine art to it, but learning those basics aren't as hard as a lot of people make it out to seem. And I think it's one of those deals where it's like they're trying to play gatekeeper a little bit. Like, no, you need me for this. And it's like, yes, that is true.
Yes and no. Like, you might not be Max Martin on your own, but like you could still get a good recording and like objectively for your skill set get good results. Like you might not have the most perfect result, but it's still a good result. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, you can
100%. 100%. So,
but it does like Dr. Luke, you know? Yeah,
for sure. So let's jump into a fun little game here. This is something you inspired the last time we were on.
Oh, no way. Okay, I forgot what it was, but let's go.
This is called Rapid Fire Randomness. I have a random question generator, and I'm going to just rapidly ask a bunch of questions.
Oh, God, no pressure. Okay, let's go.
What habit of your parents do you admire?
You said rapid fire, but I have to think about it. There's a lot I admire about them. I think their emotional, like, way they handle things and just, like, their maturity. I think I did not get an ounce of that. I wish I had that, like, rock solidness. I think it's maybe just I'm not, they're part Scorpio, both of them. So I think they have, like, that fixed sign, like, steadiness about life. And I don't know if I necessarily have that. I'm a little bit more rambunctious.
Yeah. If you could switch bodies with any celebrity, who would it be?
Like for merely physical purposes or for like for living their life purposes?
Just for, like, say 1 day. Let's just put the caveat of 1 day on there.
It would be fun to be Megan Fox for a day. I would love to know what it's like to be that like beautiful of a woman. Like, but I would also love to be Taylor Swift. Like to wake up and just like play a crowd of like 1 million must be insane.
If 1 day you woke up and the world had removed all technology, what is the first thing you would do?
I mean, probably just go about my day, like go up to the mountains or something, like go sit in nature, go touch grass.
Many people say the book is better than the movie, but what movie was better than the book?
Fight Club. Sorry, Chuck Palahniuk. He's my favorite author. I feel like I just dissed him by saying that, but I love Brad Pitt in a leather jacket, so there's that.
What is the silliest thing you've ever done?
Silliest thing I've ever done? I have this voice I talk in sometimes, and one time I just like talked in it for 10 minutes and I asked all my friends and my boyfriend if they would still love me if I talked like this. So I think that's the gig.
What is the last app you had open on your phone?
Let's see. Probably Instagram. Oh, nope. The first thing that popped up is Google searching about eclipses.
Yes. What is one story you will always remember about your boyfriend?
One story. Interesting. What story? Can it be a story he told me? He told me a story about when he met Kesha and how she just carried around a scorpion in her purse that she had caught in Joshua Tree the weekend prior. What? Yeah. So he was friends with her back in the day, and when he met her, she was just like, "You want to meet my scorpion?"
That's wow. Okay.
That's not necessarily about him. It's more about Kesha, but it's my favorite story that he's told me.
Nice. What is the ideal number of people in a social group for you?
I feel like a group of like 7 is fun because nobody feels left. Like you always have like somebody to go talk to, but like I don't know. I feel like that's a good number, especially if you're like going out. It's a fun group. Like no,
Yeah. Yeah. How many unread emails do you have right now?
50,000 plus probably. I'm running out of space on my Gmail.
Well, I'm in the same boat, but I have like 7 emails across like multiple different platforms, and I was looking at it the other day, and it said I had like 30,000 unread emails, and I'm like, cool.
Yeah, I've got some spam emails I haven't opened from like 2011 on my main one, so I feel you there.
Yeah. What is what event have you been to that you'll never forget?
Seeing Bleachers at Red Rocks, that was an event in and of itself. That was the best concert I've ever been to. Just, I love Jack.
How is Red Rocks? Does it live up to the...
Absolutely. Well, I'm partial because my parents live like 10 minutes away from there. So, like, I grew up, that's where my high school graduation was at Red Rocks. I grew up, that's like the premier concert venue, like, to me. And I think to anybody that grew up in Colorado, honestly, can attest that that's definitely the best place to go see a show.
Nice. I've been meaning to go. Like, I've always wanted to go to Red Rocks because every couple of weeks, somebody that I follow on Instagram is like, "Oh, I'm at Red Rocks," or "Oh, I'm playing Red Rocks."
Gosh,
cool. You know,
you gotta go set up a podcast. Just be like, "Hey, can I interview you before your show?" And that's your end. And then you'll get like backstage passes. It'll be dope.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. I will have to execute said plan. Would you rather be invincible to extreme heat or extreme cold?
I feel like being invincible to extreme heat would come in handy for me because I feel like I live in extreme heat, although that's probably not objectively true, but I feel like it. I'm dramatic too, but I think I want to withstand extreme cold because I love like winter hikes, so being able to just like walk through a blizzard would be so peaceful and cool, but like not cold.
Who is the most followed Instagram account that you follow?
Most followed? I mean, probably Taylor Swift, right?
Yeah, that sounds about. Yeah, I mean, other than one of the Kardashians, like I think she's probably one of the most followed people on.
Yeah, I think I might follow Billie Eilish, who I know has a lot. Yeah, something like that.
For sure. And then to wrap it up, because I know you're into astrology and all that stuff, what is your horoscope for the day?
My horoscope for the day? Okay, give me 2 seconds. Let me just pull up the chart. You'd think I would know by now what, like, the moon signs are, or, like, what day. It's where it's the 30th? Cool, let's see. I promise this won't take long.
No, you're fine.
It's not my horoscope, but the moon is in Capricorn, so this is appropriate that we're on a podcast because Capricorn's the sign of like working, and it's work. But I'm happy to be doing it, so
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm glad to have you on here. Like I had mentioned, I feel like we've been trying to get this scheduled, not rescheduled, for a good minute now. So I'm glad we were able to get this booked. It was a blast last time we had you on, and it's always fun to revisit. What's that?
I said it's been a blast this time, so thank you for having me back on.
Yeah, for sure. I wish I was able to get this video to download because I wanted to do something else, but give me like 2 seconds while we continue to chat. So as far as Sleepless in Seattle, it's out Tuesday, November 1st. Are you working on a music video or any video components for it, or
my boyfriend and I are talking about doing both like a lyric video and an actual music video. I personally really want to go to Seattle for it because it feels disingenuous to not have a song be name dropping a city and not be there for the music video, but we'll see what I can do. I'm working with a small budget here.
Yeah. And a trip to Seattle is not necessarily cheap, so.
Not always. I mean, not the way I like to, just go shop up there and just be doing things.
Yeah, for sure. I completely understand. I've been trying to get trips planned out for 2023, and it's like, oh yeah, these are all great in theory, but to like, because one of the trips I want to make is I want to go to Seattle. I've never been,
Oh shit.
but it like actually driving to Seattle, because I fly a lot, but I don't like flying because I feel like I miss a lot.
Mhm.
But driving is just so damn expensive.
Yeah, especially right now with the gas. Ooh.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. So, all
We
right,
can't
I
we
got
go somewhere, right?
yeah, you know, because one thing the one way that I've kind of planned this trip is I want to make it like a camping road trip. So it's like I drive and then I go to like stop at a campsite or something and just camp out for the night or 2 nights, whatever it is. But just the drive to Seattle itself is like 20 some odd hours from where I'm at in Texas. And it's just like,
Oh
man,
god, that
that's going to be,
is rough.
yeah. And it's
Where
like
are
that.
you at in Texas?
What's that?
Where are you at in Texas?
I'm in Waco.
Is that like west? That's kind of like west middle.
No, that's like dead center, central Texas, maybe a
Okay.
little bit east. It's between Dallas and Austin.
Okay, yeah, because
So,
that's such a rough stretch to get through,
yeah,
especially. But you could do some fun things. There's some fun routes, especially if you go through like New Mexico and like go through like
yep,
Angel Fire and like Taos and stuff like that. That could be
yep,
really cool.
yeah.
That'd be
That's kind of the plan, because got friends that still live in New Mexico. I made a lot of friends out there, so I could like swing through in the upper part of New Mexico. I've got friends that live in like Salt Lake City, Boise, Montana. Don't really want to stop in Montana because I always get lost in Montana. But
it's really big. I understand.
yeah, well, my cell phone never works there, so it's just kind of like
How
crap.
Montana?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But I got the video to download. So something that we've been doing is we've been doing this fun little React series,
Okay.
where for like Instagram and stuff. So we are going to react to this being a music podcast and tomorrow being Halloween. We are going to react to one of my favorite music scenes in a Halloween movie.
Okay, I like it.
So let me get this thing to upload. Yes, I understand. Thank you. Do you have any thoughts of what it could be?
I'm hoping. I don't really remember this movie, but I feel like there was like a Halloween scene in like Josie and the Pussycat Dolls or something. I feel like you're about to pull up something like that, or just like some like band montage or something.
It's a Disney movie. I'll put it this way.
And it's a Halloween movie. Is it Nightmare Before Christmas? Because I love that movie.
No.
No. I'm so off base. Sorry, is it Halloween Town? What we got?
Hold on a minute. What is going on? Hide on stream. Come on, play it. What are you doing? Oh, okay. There it is. All right. You ready?
Uh,
Okay. I love this movie. It's my favorite. And Bette Midler, she's just amazing. So,
really is. They slayed this movie.
what's that?
They slayed this movie.
Yeah. Everybody keeps talking about the sequel being better than this one, and I'm like, nah, I don't see it. Sorry.
I don't even think I've seen the sequel, so
Oh, really?
yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I just love this part. I watch it over and over again. So you've never seen this movie?
I have, but I just like it's one of those movies I just fall asleep while I watch or like wake up in the middle of it. Like it's like a dream. It's like deja vu. Like I have seen it, but I'm not really fully true sometimes. You know?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Oh, this is that song. Okay.
I'm trying to figure out if I feel like this is them actually singing, or at least Bette Midler,
Yeah,
just because the voice is very consistent. But
it has to
I don't
be. It
know.
has to be her singing.
Maybe not the two other sisters, but I feel like it's definitely Bette Midler.
Definitely, I think so. Mm-hmm.
So I literally look forward to Halloween to watch this movie. And for the longest time, I didn't realize that this was like an actual song that somebody wrote.
Yeah.
So.
You're like, no, that's the Hocus Pocus songs.
Yeah. Just the little nuances throughout the entire thing is amazing.
What a legend! What a legend! I like it.
All right, awesome.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Trying to figure out
plans other than your podcast.
What's that?
Do you have any other Halloween plans other than your podcast with your stoner witchy band tomorrow?
No, not at all. I got to work, so that's kind of the plan as of right now. I'm gonna work, and then I've got to get up super early on Tuesday for work again. So I'm gonna work, do the podcast, and then there's not very many kids that live around me because I live like in a apartment complex, so nobody comes trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I hope you still get to eat a Reese's peanut butter pumpkin still. I hope you get to indulge in some sort of Halloween treat.
Yeah, I might. After we jump off here, I'm going to probably go run to the dollar store because that's like...
Yes, get some Tootsie Rolls.
There you go. Tootsie Rolls or something, and just kind of enjoy Halloween in
what
some
is
fashion.
Candy? Just out of curiosity.
Ooh, I'd have to say Kit Kats, like
classic.
Yeah.
Do you like the flavored Kit Kats? Have you ever had like matcha Kit Kats before? Because those are so delicious. I could eat a whole bag of thing.
I've had the mint ones. The mint ones are pretty good. Like I enjoy those. Oh, actually, you know what? No, Kit Kats are good, but all caramel Milky Ways. So like they used to call them Simply Caramel, but I don't know what they call them now. But it's like a specific kind of Milky Way where it's just caramel. Yeah.
Good. Oh.
It's pretty good. There used to be a time where you could only get it like right around Christmas, where it was like that was their special thing, and then they started releasing it like just year round, and now it's just kind of a little bit harder to find. But I can get it. There's a dollar store right down the road from me that just always has them, and it's like, all right, cool. This is where I go to get.
That's the plug.
So, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
I always really loved those like caramel apple lollipops. You know what I'm talking about? Green, like wrapped caramel. Those are so good. I always really loved vanilla Tootsie Rolls too, specifically just the vanilla ones.
Really? That's interesting. Because I always liked the orange Tootsie Rolls. The orange Tootsie Rolls were always really good. So,
yeah.
But,
oh no, I like candy, man. I did it to myself. I brought it up, but you know that dang sugar addiction, can't beat it.
I'm trying to kick it, but it never succeeds.
Life is too short. Just give in.
Yep, 100%. But if anybody wants to check out Sleepless in Seattle, your new single, or anything else you got going on, where's the best place to find all that?
Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, my socials. I'm Chisa Marie on almost everything. If it's not one E, it's two E's. Yeah.
That's why I couldn't find you on Facebook, because it's probably two E's.
Oh, you know what? On Facebook, it's just my first name. It's
really?
Yeah. It's like my art is just Chisa, but my social media handle is just because I made them all in like 2011. Yeah. Like all Chisa Marie.
Gotcha. It was like I was sitting there, I was trying to tag you in something yesterday on Facebook, and I was like, I cannot find your, like, it just, like, I mean, obviously I know where your Facebook is, like I could find it when I search, but like when you have to go into like tag it, it's like it's not popping up. Like it was like Chisa Marie Music.
It's a page. Can you tag pages on Facebook? I don't know.
Yeah, you can tag pages.
Maybe it's a security setting I have. I probably ought to look into that. So thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, not a problem. So, again, but anyways, I just
manager, unfortunately.
Hey, it's all
much to everybody's dismay.
Hey, it's all good. I completely understand. But it's been an absolute blast chatting with you, and hopefully we'll have you back on again real soon, and just continue the fun conversations. It's always a blast chatting with you.
Likewise. Happy Halloween, everybody. Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely. Happy Halloween, and we will be back tomorrow night with another amazing band.
Witchy band, yeah. Don't be called, I don't want to know who these guys are.
It's called Omen Bringer. I'm excited to chat with them, so.
It's called what?
Awesome.
Sorry,
Omen Bringer.
Omen Burger, like a
No,
burger?
Bringer, like they're bringing the Omen.
Oh, I like it. Okay, I'm gonna go check them out.
So, yeah, I'm really excited to chat with them. And yeah, other than that, thank you all for hanging out with us. We will see you all tomorrow.
Yes, bye.